girl and got attached. My husband left me, but then I found out he was behind it all. I never thought I'd be the kind of person to write a story like this, but it's 3 in the morning. My little girl is finally asleep in the next room, and I can't stop thinking. Maybe writing it down will help me breathe again. Maybe someone needs to know. It all started 2 years ago on a Tuesday. I was walking home from my boutique, groceries in hand, when I heard a sound that made my blood run cold. A faint, broken whimper, like someone was barely holding on. I followed the sound into an alley and found her. She was small, no older than 7, crumpled against the wall, her clothes torn, bruises and cuts covering her arms and legs, blood dried and fresh in patches. Her hair was matted with grime, and her lips split open. I later learned she'd been thrown from a moving car, abandoned like trash. I wanted to scream at whoever had done it, but all I could do was kneel beside her. "Sweetheart, are you okay?" I whispered, my voice shaking. Her eyes opened, wide with terror. She tried to crawl back but winced at the pain. "Please, don't take me back," she whispered. Those words hit me in a way I'll never forget. "Don't take me back." Back where? Back to who? I swallowed, shaking, and said, "I won't. You're safe now, I promise." Her tiny hand reached for mine, shaking, cold, bloodied. And I knew in that instant that I couldn't leave her. I called 911, stayed by her side, whispering fragments of comfort as she murmured. Dark room, locked door, men. When paramedics arrived, she didn't let go of me. "Auntie, don't leave," she whispered. That was the first time she called me that, and I didn't correct her. I couldn't. From that moment, I was hers. The next months were a blur of hospitals, social workers, and endless worry. I brought coloring books, stuffed animals, snacks she could eat without flinching. I read bedtime stories in the hospital, stayed late, holding her hand through nightmares. I learned her favorite cartoons, songs, and games. I fell in love with her, fiercely, protectively, in the way someone does when a life literally depends on you. At home, my husband started changing. Late nights at work turned into days away. He snapped when I mentioned her. "You're obsessed. She's not your kid. Why are you wasting your time?" "Because she has no one. Someone threw her out of a car like trash, and she deserves better than that." I yelled once, frustrated, tired, desperate. He slammed a beer down. "She's a burden. That's all she'll ever be." I didn't realize then that his words were more than cruelty. They were a warning, a foreshadowing of the truth I'd discover later. The custody hearings were brutal. He was mostly absent, dismissive when he did show, calling the girl a burden, sneering when the judge asked him about her well-being. The judge asked me, "Ms. Reynolds, why are you pursuing custody so fiercely?" I drew a deep breath and said, "Because she deserves safety. She deserves love, and I will not let her be abandoned again." Months passed, and cracks in my husband's story began to show. Hidden accounts, encrypted apps, messages with phrases like "shipment arrived" and "client handled." My chest tightened with dread. I handed everything to the police, but the wait for answers was agonizing. Finally, the call came. "Your husband isn't just uninvolved," said the detective, voice steady but grave. "He's one of the leaders of the trafficking network." Everything went cold. The man I trusted, the man I married, the man I thought loved me, was the same man who had orchestrated her kidnapping. The same man responsible for her bloody arms, bruised face, torn clothes, and whispered terror. I remember holding her hand, tears burning my eyes, wondering how I had lived beside this monster. She looked up at me with trust in her eyes, and I knew I couldn't break. I had to be stronger than I had ever been. The courtroom battles escalated. Lawyers argued, detectives testified, financial trails and witness statements exposed him entirely. I sat next to her, holding her hand as evidence after evidence was laid bare. I had to be her anchor through it all. "Is it in the child's best interest to live with someone so emotionally attached?" One lawyer sneered at me. I met his eyes steadily. "This isn't just attachment. This is survival. She needs someone who will fight for her every single day. That person is me." The judge nodded. "Custody is awarded to Miss Reynolds. Full custody. Protective measures remain in place." He was arrested, tried, sentenced, his empire dismantled. When he looked at me in handcuffs, I didn't flinch. I wasn't his wife anymore. I was her protector. Life after was hard. She had nightmares, flashbacks, moments of frozen terror. A sudden car engine could make her flinch. A loud voice in the park would send her to the ground, shaking. But there were moments of light too. Baking cookies together, laughing through flower fights, watching her giggle at silly cat videos, seeing her draw pictures of us holding hands, calling me auntie or mommy. Those moments healed pieces of both of us. I stayed with her every night, whispering, "You're safe. I'm here. Nobody's coming for you." I watched her slowly learn to trust the world again, to laugh, to sleep through the night. We live in a small apartment now. Nothing fancy, but safe. Warm. Ours. She has friends, toys, space to grow without fear. The scars remain, on her body, in her memories, in the way she sometimes grips my hand too tight, and on me in the nights I lie awake, haunted by guilt and by what she endured. But then I hear her little voice calling from the next room. "Auntie, you there?" And I answer every time. "Always, baby. Always." Because for her, I will never Family favored my brother, tried to destroy me, and I refused to stay silent. I grew up in a house where love wasn't equal. My brother was the golden child, the sun in our family's universe. Every birthday, every holiday, every trivial accomplishment, he got the spotlight. New clothes, expensive gadgets, trips we couldn't afford for me, dinners celebrating him while I sat quietly in a corner. I got hand-me-downs and excuses. If I dared ask for something, I was met with a dismissive, "Be grateful for what you have." At first, I thought it was normal sibling favoritism. Painful, yes, but harmless. But it quickly became clear that this was shaping him, teaching him he could do anything and get away with it. The teasing at first was small, calling me names, rolling his eyes when I spoke. Then it escalated, tripping me in hallways, stealing my possessions, spreading rumors at school. Teachers noticed, sometimes gave me a sympathetic glance, but my parents, they dismissed it. "He's just teasing. Boys will be boys," my mother said. My father would shrug, distracted by his phone or television. By 14, the bullying was physical. He shoved me into lockers, pushed me downstairs, sometimes pinned me and laughed when I tried to fight back. I begged my parents to intervene. My mother said, "Learn to get along. Stop being dramatic." My father ignored me. The house felt like a prison. Every day I walked on eggshells, terrified of setting him off. The breaking point came when I was 17. Over something trivial, a phone charger, my brother snapped. He chased me, cornered me, and tried to strangle me in our living room. I thought I was going to die in my own home. But I fought. I scratched, kicked, screamed until I broke free and ran. Neighbors called the police. That night was a turning point. I refused to stay silent. I pressed charges, not just against him, but against my parents for years of neglect and emotional abuse. Court was brutal. My brother smirked through every hearing. My parents begged the judge to dismiss it, calling me dramatic. But witnesses spoke, neighbors, teachers, friends. They told of the bullying, the fear, the abuse I endured. The evidence was overwhelming. My parents were held accountable, and my brother was charged with attempted murder. For the first time, I felt a spark of justice. I dared to hope. And then I met him, the man who seemed genuine, kind, protective. I allowed myself to trust, to love. I let my walls down. I fell for him. Then I found out I was pregnant. And suddenly, everything I had survived came crashing back. Instead of joy, I felt terror, panic, flashbacks of my brother's violence, of my parents' neglect, and now fear that my new life could be snatched away. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat, couldn't stop shaking. I cried until my throat burned. Could I protect this baby? Could I survive this new threat? The man I trusted was not who I thought. The night I told him, he snapped, yelling, shoving me, trying to hurt me, to destroy both me and my baby. My body trembled, mind racing. I felt every year of neglect, fear, and abuse collide at once. The man I loved had been planted there by my brother, a pawn in a twisted scheme to finish what he started from jail. I barely escaped alive. Every shadow felt dangerous. Every phone call made my heart race. I felt panic and despair like never before, but beneath it all, survival instincts ignited. I went to the police, detailed the attack, ensured the man would face justice. I filed lawsuits against him, my brother, and my parents for neglect and abuse. Court battles reopened every wound. Witnesses, cross-examinations, detailed evidence. It was exhausting, terrifying, and necessary. Pregnancy amplified everything. Nights were sleepless. Panic attacks hit without warning. I feared every movement, every sound, thinking he or my brother could strike again. Eating was difficult. Simple tasks felt monumental. Yet in quiet moments, when the baby moved, a small spark of hope emerged. I realized I had survived worse than anyone could imagine. I could survive this too. I had to. Therapy helped, but trauma lingered. Flashbacks haunted me. I flinched at loud noises, shied away from men, and sometimes froze in fear at unexpected touches. Courtrooms were anxiety-filled battlegrounds. But I faced them, fought back, and reminded myself that my life, and my baby's life, was worth every ounce of pain endured. I had to rebuild trust in myself. I learned to recognize danger, to trust instincts, to assert boundaries. Every victory in court, every hearing won, felt like reclaiming a piece of my stolen life. I was no longer just a victim. I was a fighter, a protector, a mother in waiting. The pregnancy forced me to slow down, reflect, and strengthen my resolve. I imagined the life I would give my child, safe, protected, loved, and it fueled me. I realized survival isn't about forgetting pain. It's about standing tall despite it, about protecting the next generation from the abuse I endured. Finally, after months of legal battles, therapy, and near constant vigilance, I began to feel a fragile sense of peace. I was free from my brother's direct control, free from my parents' negligence, and even though the scars remain, emotional and physical, I had reclaimed my life. I would protect my baby. I would fight every day if I had to, and I would never let anyone try to control or harm us again, because I survived. I thrived. I became stronger than anyone in my life ever expected. And now, as I watch the first life growing inside me, I know one thing for certain. I will fight for us, no matter the... I never really knew I met Lena during freshman orientation, in that chaotic swirl of nervous laughter and awkward icebreakers. She was magnetic, the kind of person who could light up a room without even realizing it. Her smile was effortless, her laugh contagious, and somehow, in the first hour, she made me feel like we had known each other forever. We became inseparable. Coffee runs at dawn, late-night study sessions that devolved into deep confessions, crying over bad dates and broken hearts. She had a way of listening that made the world fall away, like nothing existed outside of our tiny bubble of truth and trust. I trusted her with everything, my dreams, my fears, the parts of me I hid from the world, and I thought she trusted me too. But by the second semester, something felt off. Lena would vanish for hours, sometimes entire days, with vague explanations. She would return with stories that didn't quite match up, friends I'd never met, trips to places that seemed imaginary. I wanted to chalk it up to college life, but my gut screamed otherwise. Then, one gray, rain-soaked afternoon, she called me asking for help moving boxes. Normally, I would have said no, but something inside me said yes. That something was curiosity. Maybe suspicion. Maybe fate. Her apartment was cozy, warm, a reflection of her chaotic charm. Plants crowded the corners, old posters decorated the walls, small trinkets reminded me of her quirks. But then I noticed it. A plain, nondescript door in a hallway I hadn't noticed before. My heartbeat quickened. I pushed it open. Inside was a room that belonged to another life entirely. Stacks of passports, IDs under dozens of names, photographs of people I didn't know, travel itineraries, documents, lives lived in secret. And in the center, a laptop, open, displaying chats and messages that made my stomach twist. Shadowy dealings, coded conversations, people who could kill if provoked. Lena's hidden life was dangerous, criminal, untouchable. She walked in behind me, calm, almost sad. "I wanted to tell you," she said softly. I just didn't know how, not until it was safe. I demanded answers. She told me everything. Her life in the shadows, the people she had to navigate, the lies she had to tell to protect herself, and me. My world tilted. I left her apartment hollow, questioning every laugh, every hug, every night spent crying together. Weeks went by. Lena's calls and texts went unanswered. But then one night, a text came. "I didn't choose this life. I chose you. Please meet me. Just once." I agreed, curiosity winning over fear. She led me to an abandoned train station on the outskirts of the city. The flickering lights cast long shadows, the distant echoes of trains adding tension to the night. She handed me a folder with documents, photographs, confessions. She had protected people, made mistakes, lied for survival, and every secret explained why she had disappeared, why she had never told me. "I didn't lie to hurt you," she said, voice trembling. "I lied to survive. And I hope you can understand that some truths are too dangerous to tell." I thought about walking away, about leaving the world of secrets she inhabited, but I couldn't. Something in me had bonded with her beyond fear or caution. Then things escalated. One night, I followed her, because I couldn't resist. She met a man in a dark alley. He was tall, menacing, with a presence that made the hair on my arm stand. Lena's voice was calm, but her eyes were sharp, alert. That man was part of the dangerous world I glimpsed, the antagonist I had only seen in messages. He spoke in a low, clipped tone. She shouldn't have brought anyone close. You know the rules. Lena didn't flinch. "I'm careful. You've underestimated me before. Don't again." The man stepped forward. I froze. But Lena, without looking at me, whispered, "Hide." My heartbeat was deafening as I crouched behind a dumpster, watching the encounter. She handled it with a precision I hadn't realized she possessed. Bravery, strategy, cunning. Over the next weeks, I was pulled deeper into her world. I learned how she navigated danger, outsmarted people who would kill for mistakes, balanced her shadow life with the friend I had known. I realized she had chosen to let me in, not for protection, not for loyalty, but because she trusted me in a way no one else could earn. The climax came when the man from the alley returned, bringing a gang of dangerous people. They wanted information Lena had, and this time, they weren't playing games. The night was chaos, running through alleys, dodging headlights, hiding in abandoned buildings. Lena directed me like a general, her mind a storm of strategy and calculation. When it was over, we were breathing hard, covered in dirt and rain, the city around us eerily quiet. Lena turned to me. "This is my world," she said, "but I wanted you in it, because some bonds, some friendships, are worth the risk." Months later, life settled into a dangerous rhythm. She still had secrets, I still had questions, but our friendship was unbreakable. We had laughter, late-night confessions, victories and heartbreaks, just as like before, but now with the weight of truth and danger layered on top. Sometimes I think about the hidden room, the folder of secrets, the dangerous life Lena lives. And sometimes, when she laughs at a terrible joke or smiles at nothing, I remember why I stayed. Because some truths are dangerous, yes, but some friendships are worth every risk. And maybe in another life, we could have been normal.